Happy birthday, Alex. Consider this our gift. You're fired. That's what HR said to me, smirking as they slid the papers across the desk. On my birthday. After 10 loyal years of service, they didn't even bother with cake. Just humiliation wrapped in arrogance. The fluorescent lights flickered above as if mocking me, while Denise Harper, the HR director, watched my reaction like she was savoring it. They thought I'd walk out quietly, broken, like the dozens before me. But that day, something inside me shifted. I smiled, signed their termination papers, and walked out without a word. Because by midnight, the entire database they'd spent years building wasn't theirs anymore. It was mine. Before I tell you how I went from humiliated to victorious, subscribe to Lawful Payback, and comment where you're watching from. You won't believe how this story ends. My name is Alex Mercer, 39 years old, living in Chicago. Until recently, I was a systems analyst for a mid-sized financial software firm called Dataverse Technologies. My days weren't glamorous, but they were long. I maintained servers, handled data migrations, and patched vulnerabilities others ignored. Every morning, I'd wake before sunrise, grab black coffee, and head straight to the office. Overtime wasn't optional. It was survival. Between my mother's medical bills, rent in downtown Chicago, and lingering grad school loans, every dollar mattered. Despite my sacrifices, I believed loyalty would pay off. For a decade, I stayed. Late, canceled holidays, and fixed crises others couldn't touch. I covered for managers, trained interns, and kept our systems running 24/7. I thought the company saw me as an asset, someone they couldn't afford to lose. But HR had other plans. Denise Harper, sharp suit and sharper tongue, called employees like me overpaid labor. Her mission was to make the balance sheet look leaner, no matter who bled for it. And her ally? Victor Lane, my manager. The kind of man who shook your hand while filing complaints behind your back. When whispers of restructuring began, I brushed them off. I'd saved their systems from collapse countless times. I thought I was untouchable. I was wrong. The signs grew louder. My overtime hours mysteriously vanished from payroll. I approached HR, frustrated. Denise smiled condescendingly. Alex, sometimes we think we've worked more than we actually have. Stress can blur memory. Gaslighting, pure and simple. Meanwhile, my bills piled up. My mother's cancer treatments were overdue. Rent notices arrived with bold red letters. I was working 60-plus hours, but my paycheck looked like I barely worked 40. Then came the blow. HR revised overtime policies. Retroactively. Suddenly, months of work I'd already done no longer counted. Denise called it a necessary cost-saving measure. For me, it was my family's lifeline cut clean. I went to my manager, Victor, for help. He sighed dramatically, pretending sympathy. Alex, just ride it out. Things will stabilize. But that same week, I overheard him in the break room praising HR for slashing unnecessary overhead. I was the overhead. I stayed late, exhausted, holding systems together by sheer willpower. The building would empty, lights dim, and I'd sit alone in that humming server room, wondering why I still cared. One night around 1 a.m., I overheard Denise laughing. He'll crack soon. People like Alex always do. She was right about one thing I nearly did. My savings were gone, credit maxed, my mother's care in jeopardy. I stared at my reflection in the dark monitor, thinking maybe it was time to walk away. But fate had other plans. On the night of my birthday, the night they fired me, I sat alone in my apartment, surrounded by half-empty takeout boxes and unopened bills. Rain tapped against the window, city lights bleeding through like ghosts. I opened my laptop one last time, intending to clear out old files. That's when I noticed discrepancies. My archived timesheets, digitally signed months, earlier didn't match the company's payroll logs, Someone had tampered with them. I dug deeper, following metadata trails, version histories, and timestamps. The original entries showed my full 60-hour weeks. The altered ones capped me at 40, stripped weekends, and even forged approvals, with my signature. It wasn't just me. My local backups revealed other employees' timesheets altered the same way. Denise's cost-saving measures weren't policy tweaks. They were corporate fraud, deliberate systematic theft. I sat back, stunned. For weeks they'd mocked me, underpaid me, discarded me. But now, I held evidence that could ruin them. HR thought they'd humiliated me into silence. Instead, they'd handed me dynamite. The next morning I walked into a labor lawyer's office with trembling hands. At first she was skeptical. "Alex, companies bury cases like this under paperwork. Unless you have irrefutable proof, judges rarely side with employees." I slid a flash drive across her desk, original logs, altered copies, forged approvals, full metadata. She scrolled through in silence, eyes widening. "This changes everything." We filed suit immediately. The company retaliated just as fast. HR sent cease and desist letters. Victor emailed my old co-workers calling me unstable and dangerous. Their lawyers flooded us with motions to dismiss and depositions designed to drain me emotionally and financially. But I didn't back down. I knew the system inside out. Every backup, every redundancy, every trail they thought they'd erased. My lawyer called it the digital equivalent of fingerprints. At the first hearing, the judge looked skeptical. "Mr. Mercer, what you're alleging is serious. Do you have more than speculation?" Across the courtroom, Denise smirked. Victor whispered something to their counsel, confident it was over. Then my lawyer played a time-stamped recording. A system log showing unauthorized edits to payroll data performed from Denise's workstation at 2:14 a.m. The smirk vanished. The judge leaned forward. "Proceed." The trial was brutal. Denise and Victor testified confidently, insisting payroll discrepancies were clerical oversights. Their lawyers painted me as bitter, vengeful, and technologically manipulative. For weeks it seemed they'd win. Until the final day. My lawyer revealed an email chain between Denise and Victor, preserved in a backup server they'd forgotten existed. Denise had written, "Trim Mercer's overtime. If he complains, say he's mistaken. By the time he catches on, he'll be gone." The courtroom went silent. The judge's eyebrows rose. Then the whistleblower appeared. A young payroll clerk, named Jenna. Nervous but brave, she testified under oath that she'd been ordered to alter employee timesheets under Denise's direction. She even described Victor's words afterward. "Good work. We just saved the company 20 grand. It was the nail in their coffin." The judge's tone hardened. "This court finds in favor of Alex Mercer. The defendants engaged in willful payroll fraud. Damages awarded, full back pay, penalties, and compensatory damages." Denise's smugness shattered. Victor slumped forward, pale. Their empire, built on deceit, crumbled in front of everyone. By the end, I wasn't just compensated. I was vindicated. The damages covered every stolen dollar, every hospital bill, every sleepless night. And the irony? During discovery, their entire database, the one I'd maintained, updated, and safeguarded for years, was turned over for audit. Every fraudulent change, every hidden file, every secret directive came from the very systems I'd built. The truth they tried to bury was preserved because I had backed it up properly. Within weeks, Victor resigned in disgrace. Denise disappeared from the industry entirely. The company rebranded, desperate to bury the scandal. As for me, I rebuilt. Started consulting, helping other workers protect themselves against corporate exploitation. I finally had peace. One careless lie destroyed them. One hidden truth saved me. If you believe justice always finds its way, subscribe to Lawful Payback, because the next story will leave you speechless.